we are going to start with our second debate of the morning. The motion before the House is that this House believes that modern social media makes people socially less active. I repeat, modern social media makes people socially less active. So the proposition team of this debate are Diana Safia, Nur Adlina Nabila, Nur Izzati Hanani, and Syed. And the opposition team of this debate are Diana Safia, Nur Aina, and Siti Nur Afika. So before we begin, I will briefly explain the rules. So each of the main speeches are 7 minutes long. The first and last minute of each of these speeches is known as the protected time, which means that no POIs, points of information, may be asked by the opposite bench. So the summary speeches are 4 minutes long and are entirely protected from POIs. So I will mark the opening, the timekeeper will mark the opening and closing of protected time with a single bang of flag, once at 1 minute and a second time at 6 minutes. And I will indicate that the speaker's time is up with a double bang. The timekeeper will indicate. So if the speaker continues for a further 15 seconds, a triple bang will be indicated, and thereafter continuously until speaker is finished. So questions from the floor are strictly prohibited. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming the first speaker from the proposition side, Nur Adlina Nabila, to the floor for the debate.
Have you ever seen people in a social gathering with their phone and sitting in the corner, despite surrounded by tremendous of energy from other elder people, love from their children, or people are busy staring at their screen phone instead of staring at each other? Still, they are prioritizing virtuality over reality. Thank you, Ms. Chairman. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon to the respected speaker, timekeepers, members of the opposition team, and members of the floor. Before I put forward to the case today, I, as the Prime Minister, will be the first speaker of the proposition team, will give you complete setup and argumentation on why social media make people socially less active. My deputy will refute points from the opposition team and will be talking about 2 arguments. And our third speaker will rebut and sum our team case and tell you why we win today's debate. First, definition. According to Boyd and Ellison 2008, social media is defined as websites which allow profile curation, web-based applications which provide functionality for sharing relationships and profiles. Social relates to human connection, which is the active interaction of the individual and the group they live in. And the term less active means lack of motivation to engage in or involve in any physical or social activity. Socially less active means refers to the lack of motivation to interact or engage in any social activity. Notice how I mentioned interaction in definition before? So our mechanism today is to focus on face-to-face interaction. Ladies and gentlemen, today's motion is clear. This House believes that modern social media makes people socially less active. And we on the government side strongly believe and agree with the motion. I'm starting today's debate by clarifying that I am not averse to the positive impacts of social media. But the fact of the matter is that the motion put before the House today is not about the benefit of social media, but it's about social media make people socially less active. I will continue my argument by discussing how social media is affecting on its user on individual level, because it will eventually change the behavior and corrupt the way we interact with each other. Members of the floor, believe it or not, our real human connection is being replaced by virtual relationships, and the undeniable truth is that people are spending huge proportions of their life living in a digital universe. When a person spends hours of scrolling their phone screens in a day, it can actually lead to addiction, and this is what we call as social media addiction. Social media can lead to addiction and result in disturbing the psychological state of the user. Research done by the Chicago Booth School of Business in 2017 indicated that Facebook, Instagram, and other platforms can be more addictive than tobacco and alcohol because, among other things, access to social media is easier and free. According to Addiction Center website, Social media addiction is a behavioral addiction that is characterized as being overly concerned about social media, consumed by an uncontrollable urge to log in to use social media, and devoting so much time and effort to social media that it impairs the real life connection. According to United Nations statistics in 2022, an internet user approximately spends 6 hours 53 minutes on social media per day and spend most of the time social networking. If we look this case deeper in Malaysia, we actually rank 6th for spending the most time on the internet daily with an impressive 9 hours 4 minutes daily according to Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission's MCMC. So, how social media can be so addictive? According to Dr. Nancy DeAngelis, Director of Behavioral Health, social media platform drives surges of dopamine to the brain to keep consumers coming back over and over again. The shares, likes, and comments on these platforms triggers the brain and resulting in high similar to the one people feel when they are using drugs. Yes.
If you've mentioned about likes, comments, and viewers, isn't that considered as an interaction that makes them socially active?
It actually talking about it is more to passive interaction when they're not actively interact, but they just passively interaction because of the social likes, without actually interacting through social media. Okay, so once the brain experiences these rushes of dopamine, the high from social media becomes harder and harder for them to resist and eventually create patterns of addictive behavior. Research known as the Internet User Survey IUS in 2017, conducted by MCMC, found that 89% of the respondents are addicted to social media platforms such as Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. They did the research through a survey with a total 3,469 respondents, and 240 of them admitted to be addicted to the internet. The situation clearly indicates that society are more comfortable in sharing, exchanging, communicating, expressing their feelings in cyberspace in the real world. They choose social media over the potential of a real relationship right in front of them and prefer to connect online rather than to connect with human beings. Social media addiction has decreased and halted the connectedness and activeness of a person to actually engage and involve themselves in a real potential relationship. Social media has made people less engaging, communicative, lacking of social skills, and in the real world connection. Addiction to social media has made society less responsive because they tend to not socialize in real life, because they could not resist the addiction due to high rushes of dopamine. Ladies and gentlemen, Michelle Obama once said in her interview with Stephen Colbert in 2019, we have to get off the phone and knock on doors and talk to each other face to face. We can't rely on the social media to tell us about the world. Social media is making us unsocial. Social media is killing the potential of a real relationship, and most importantly, social media make people socially less active. So, we as the government team truly and strongly believe that today's motion should be accepted. Thank you.
Thank you for the speech. So now please welcome the first speaker of the opposition, Diana Safia, to open the case for their side.
Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to inform you that the government team is currently engaged in a losing battle. However, before we start, I first extend my greetings to the members of this lovely house, the honorable panel of judges, the punctual timekeeper, the amazing opponents on the government team, and the qualified and capable comrades on the opposition team. However, I'm going to do two things today. Ladies and gentlemen, in the first place, I'm rebutting any claims made by the Prime Minister, and second, I'm going to provide the arguments from the side of the opposition. But first, let's listen to the definition provided by the government. She said, social media is defined as the active interaction and as a tool to people communicate. I agree. Is that like that? You easily agree that the modern social media makes people socially less active. And you say social media makes people socially passive interaction. You yourself scroll into the TikTok every day, make interaction with people through WhatsApp and chat. Do you see yourself as a passive social interaction people? So, to rebut the government argument. Here, I emphasizing action speaks louder than words. Our gestures and expressions can express that words cannot. We do not communicate through the words alone. It conveys messages through body movement and audio, visual signals, which make people socially more active. They engaging with each other through social media. So what represents the body movement and our emotion in the social media? Because people can't see us through this chat, through the passively method that you see just now. People just view the snap, but with the existence of the emoji, the selection of other emoji, people are more socially active. And TSLB, senior instructor in the University of Alabama's Department of Communication Studies, defines a non-verbal communication as any aspect of communication. I'm going to emphasize the use of non-verbal communication here as any aspect of communication other than words themselves. Believe that the examples of non-verbal include facial expressions and gestures. Typically, non-verbals are viewed within the context of face-to-face communication, like you said just now. But social media as a tool to replace the face-to-face communication for some kind of people like introvert people. So, back to my main argument. What is the stand inside of the opposition? We tell you our stand is clear and concise. Social media make people like introverts socially more active. Ladies and gentlemen, let me give you an overview about what introvert is. According to the Oxford Languages, introvert can refer as a shy and reticent person. In other words, a person that predominantly concerned with their own thoughts and feelings rather than with external things. Being an introvert means you're not simply shy, it also means you have voice and comfort in the social setting. Then, how will the introvert engage with the society? Yes, through the social media. Hence, I completely disagree. Not yet. With the fragile proposition that have been proposed by the side of the government that saying that social media make people socially less active. We believe this motion. This House believes that social media make people socially less active should not be accepted. Moving on to the main argument in the opposition side, which is the online communities helps introverts to fit in as social media make introverts people socially more active. The internet has completely changed the life of introverts. It gives them a platform to be themselves and live their unique personality traits, while also allowing them to find communities where they can interact with like-minded, open-minded people. For example, many introverts have discovered a fondness for blogging because it allows them to express their thoughts without having to speak in front of others or reveal personal information about themselves that avoid them from the dangers. Blogging helps introverts feel less exposed because their content is always under their own control. Blogging also gives them the opportunity to interact with others on different websites or in comment sections because they have the audacity in the fear to face the society. Yes, go on.
You said that social media is a platform to introvert person. But what if when in the introvert is about to communicate in real life communication, when they are going to interview, how should they socialize with others? Because
I'm going to explain it later. Enough, you take my time. I'm not kidding. Blogging also gives them the opportunity to interact with others on always under their own control. So, blogging only relates for unwanted attention and reward players, so they might engage with the community. From the blog, if receive the positive comment, even though they receive the negative comment, they enhance their confidence. Okay, I want to do more and more, despite all the negativity and the hateness that was provided by the comments and the views by the netizen. Hence, at the end of the day, they feel confident to overcome their fear with people and start to socialize in a real life situation. Like, I hope that answers your point. For example, based on the article that was published by Stella Bell on 21st May 2015, she said that the YouTuber who has had the biggest impact on me is a weird introverted man by the name of Steve Started. It means the introvert is a successful YouTuber. They changed their personality trait from an introvert to someone that can overcome the fear to the society. How to make XT is his claim to fame video. This video has enormous success. What's odd is that when he talks about uninteresting subjects, I found myself being calm and comfortable by his monotonous voice. The fact that he chooses such nice topics for his video is another factor that makes me like this. So he simply creates movies about subjects he chooses at random without using Google Trends or other marketing techniques. So in this article, we can conclude that despite all the happenings and negativity, there's some spirit that was hidden behind the comment that encouraged him to do more and more to get out of his comfort zone. He became more confident to post his blog, more confidence to satisfy people in his more videos to enjoy people getting some fun. It's undoubtedly it can make him to face the fear, get out of his comfort zone to confront the society in face-to-face communication in the society, to contribute into the society. I'm emphasizing back here that the social media platform specifically provides a medium to the introvert to be more socialized with the people like what I have been stated just now. It changes their personality trait from the shy and reticent person to a person that wants to contribute to the society. They will socialize in the social media, and as time passes by, the confidence becomes bigger to confront the community, not just online but also in the reality. Hence, the opposition sides believe modern social media makes people socially more active. Thank you.
Thank you to the speaker for the speech. So now I welcome the second speaker of the opposition, Nuriza Hanani. Please welcome.
Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. I need to Ms. Chairperson, the wise panel of educators, respective timekeeper, members of opposition, ladies and gentlemen, members of the floor. The motion for our debate today is, this House believes that modern social media makes people socially less active. Here I am standing proudly wanted to propose the motion. I'm sorry. But before we move on to my points and we move as the supportive argument of my Prime Minister, I would like to do the rebuttal and clash everything that the first speaker of opposition team had argued. The first speaker of the opposition team has tried to tell you that we also interact and socialize through social media, and that is true. However, my Prime Minister has mentioned about passive interaction. Since we don't actively engage in the interaction, we can clearly see that the opposition team don't understand the term socially that has explained by my Prime Minister. She also mentioned about introvert. How can you be social that introvert people have the braveness to interact through social media? I believe that you don't understand the concept of introvert, because as an introvert myself, I tend to avoid interacting through social media also, since I can avoid replying to text instantly. It could be clearly seen that she just wanted to shove words down our throats. Now let's move on to my first argumentation. We propose the motion because we believe that social media makes social skills deteriorate. Social skills are the skills that we use to communicate and interact with one another. Social skills, and mentioning social skills, obviously we are going to talk about and focus on both verbal and non-verbal communication. Meanwhile, deteriorate basically means making something progressively worse. Ladies and gentlemen, why do I say that social media makes social skills become progressively worse? This is because of one, antisocial. Yes, a pretty common word I would say. Antisocial are those who seem incapable of living without their bright screen and constantly texting, scrolling, tweeting, posting, and checking out what other people are up to. My Prime Minister also has explained about addiction towards social media, and my job today is to support her argumentations by providing more evidence and points. The hypothesis for my argumentation is that the more people engage with social media platforms, the less they will socialize in real life. This is because of, even when they are speaking with people face to face, they are getting distracted by their phones and are not concentrating on the conversation in real life. According to a study which was conducted by FlashGap, which is a photo sharing application with over 150,000 users, 87% of millennials admitted to missing out on conversation because they were distracted by their phone. So this proves how powerful social media can be, to the point that even that small little square thing can make people lose focus during social interaction. And this will eventually lead to the destruction of their social skills. People should keep on interacting with one another to keep improving their social skills. Social skills won't develop by itself, so if they don't interact, there won't be any improvement in terms of the skills. And when there is no skills, the people will be more passive and avoid social interactions since they don't know how to engage well with others. 2. People are neglecting rudimentary social skills by keeping their hands in their phones rather than talking face to face. Overuse of the phone has an impact on verbal and non-verbal communication, especially on how people maintain eye contact, on how they maintain their body language, and the words that they use. Now, focusing on social skills, using social media too much makes it harder for an individual to identify the emotion being expressed by the person with whom they are talking to, because they are used to a non-face-to-face interaction. It can become harder for individuals to learn and understand basic emotions since they are so connected to the digital web. Not yet. We all know that connecting through social media is hard enough since we can't see the facial expressions. We can't hear the intonation of the text and etc. It reveals to us how hard it is for us to understand and figure out what is the actual messages that the other party want to convey if we interact through social media. However, if the other side wanted to say, we can connect in deeper levels since we have emojis, we have stickers, we have voice note feature that could at least portray our emotions and deliver our messages with the right intonation. I'm sorry that I have to oppose that. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, we should use these features to the maximum level, we should benefit from it. But we should also realize the fact that these so-called helpful features will also bring damage and disruption. Why? Because we were so invested and too reliant on these things to the point that when we socialize in real life, we don't know the solutions on how to portray the emotions with the right facial expressions or gestures. Yes.
If you're talking about social media doesn't allow us to make verbal communication, how about videos that require us to talk in order to convey our messages? It also involves intonations, facial expressions, and also teaching us on how to be socially active.
It clearly seems that you don't understand the term of actively engaged. It means actively engaged means that you have to have two-way communication. If video, you just send your video and then you don't receive any instant feedback from the other person because you have to send that and then you have to wait for the reply. To compare with like face-to-face interaction where you communicate like face-to-face, you get the reply instantly, not like you have to wait for that. Thank you. To support my argument, even in the book I just published by Jean Anton mentioned that in the next decade we see more young people who know just the right emoji for a situation but not the right facial expression. Hence, I'm not sure what makes the other team think that social media get to connect people in it. Because it is obviously not, but we are more than happy if they get to prove the other way around. Back to my point, when people can figure out the emotions, this will make it harder to respond appropriately, and obviously there won't be any effective and active communication happen. It also proves that though social media can make people connect with each other, they can connect them to the deepest level as face-to-face interactions can. So as we have seen, it is obvious that the presence of social media has the potential to divert people away from face-to-face interactions, undermining the character and depth of these relationships. Ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to my second argument in favor of this motion, which is social media decrease self-esteem in individuals. We can define and perceive self-esteem as the confidence or belief in one's own worth or abilities. You might be wondering why do I wanted to touch about self-esteem? Well, members of the floor, research has shown that people compare themselves more as they spend more time on social media. This is what we conclude based on the research from National University of Singapore. This social comparison has indeed been connected to lower self-esteem and increased social anxiety. Hence, social media will make people feel insecure and avoid face-to-face interaction, making them socially less active. According to a study conducted by researchers at the National University of Singapore, they mentioned the fact that people on social media typically display positive information about themselves. Obviously, who want to show their weak or bad side to the public, right? But we need to know that these so-called positive personalities display relate to expectations that are unachievable. You see pictures of someone living their life happily, you started to compare your life with them, and eventually result in negative perception of your lives. Amy Mendes 2022 stated that the factor of this is because they are scared to be judged by others, which eventually can interfere with their communication. The hypothesis that we hold onto today is that the higher the usage of internet, the higher the possibility of depression and loneliness. In a nutshell, I have explained two main reasons on why modern social media makes people socially less active, which are it makes our social skills deteriorate and affect an individual's self-esteem. So, Mr. Jefferson, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, we agree and strongly believe with today's motion. I could not be more proud to propose this motion. Thank you.
Right, so thank you to the second speaker from the opposition. So now I welcome the second speaker of the opposition, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Before I proceed with my arguments, let us take a look at the government's point earlier, whereby they stated that social media makes the social skill is quite limited into the usage of social media. However, if you take a look at all kind of features as explained by Ifati earlier, these emotions can still be conveyed although passively. And passive emotions, through the one that Adina mentioned earlier, the engagements through passive interactions, it is still considered as a form of interaction. And this kind of interaction, whether we realize it or not, we can actually, for example, if you post a video, you just post like a normal video and it somehow went viral and people gave engagements in that particular video, it actually motivates the person to be more active socially and that also indirectly helps them to build up their self-confidence and motivation, which also relates to our first point, which is the introverts kind of personality. Because as we all know, the introverts have a very distinct features whereby they tend to keep their inner thoughts all by themselves. But according to the research paper submitted by the TSLB Research Center, 64 teenagers out of 789 teenagers in this survey had collectively agreed that they meet more friends online. Why? Because these kind of friends helps them to open up and express their thoughts in a way that it helps to comfort them instead of the real life friends. However, these kind of friends also, as Adlina already stated that this debate will be focusing on the real life interactions. This kind of online friends also gives impacts in our social life, in our social skills. Why? Because according to this will be related to my first argument, and now I will be presenting my first argument, as the one I want to rebut will be related closely to my first argument. And so, the first argument from the opposition side is in which we believe that social media makes people socially more active as it connects people. First of all, social media is a borderless online platform whereby people can, and everyone and anyone can make numerous connections from people all across the world. It brings people together as one people find a compatible social circles, and a compatible social circle sharing the joy of having similar interests and further joining a larger social community. According to a research paper submitted by Amanda Lenhart, 64% out of the same 789 people from the same survey acknowledge that the fact that social media play a huge role in developing their social skills in real life interactions, which already answers the first point given by the government. And it also strengthens our notion that social media makes people socially more active. And for instance, sports-prone people would obviously engage themselves with sports-related information, and this would indirectly motivate them to actively participate, as the one they mentioned already, regarding the actively engage with sports-centered events, open tournaments, marathons, and even competition being advertised on social media. What? Yes?
If you say that social media connects people, then how does it connect in a good way? Because there is still a toxic culture that is
I will
cancelling
be
it.
explaining later. Just after this. Okay? So I will be explaining it later. Thank you. And in fact, in 2022, a total of 34,000 people participated in the Kuala Lumpur Chartered Marathon. This Kuala Lumpur Chartered Marathon is an annual event that is being held and invited people internationally, which also, as people participate in this kind of event, social interaction as well as real life interaction will occur in this kind of events. Especially when people with the same interest, which is in sport-related things, they will find it easier for them to click on and to have a social interaction, or a real life social interaction. And it will also eventually help them to broaden up their social network, which again supports our motion that social media makes people more socially active. And moving on to our second point from the opposition team, we believe that social media makes people actively engage in social gatherings. As I mentioned earlier, as they actively engage themselves with social media, it also indirectly broaden up their connection with other people in real life. How? By facilitating the real life interaction with the friends they meet online as they join in group meetings and group gatherings. According to, this is the one I mentioned earlier, that 64% teenagers agreed that they meet more friends online, and they also agreed that these online friends also helps them in building up their social skills. Yes?
How about those online friends that end up catfishing them or like making fake identity? Will they not be like in danger if they meet?
Okay, thank you. I will answer that. And we cannot deny that social media is a very borderless online platform, and we cannot deny that it also have the pros and cons. However, it is up to us to, we should have prepared ourselves, and we ourselves should have not trust people that easily. Also, regarding this kind of thing, if we were to participate in this kind of social gatherings that involve physical and real life interactions, we should have prepared ourselves beforehand. And we should have asked someone to supervise us or to join us in the meetings for safety purposes, or at least prepare a self-defense kits like the one we've already seen on various social media platforms. And in addition, exposure to social media also promotes the development in one's communication skills as they interact with others. In 2018, a trend popularized by Korean pop fans, whereby they would host birthday cafe events and held social gatherings to celebrate and show support for the celebrity they like, had drastically increased from 20 to up to 130 events conducted in a month, according to Lee Soo-john in her research paper on the development of Korean culture. This clearly shows that social media helps you to be more socially active, be it online or through real-life interaction. With that, I rest my case.
Thank you. So now I welcome the third speaker of the proposition. Please welcome.
So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you to the chairperson, my judges, and also the opposition team today. I will be rebutting and also support. I will be rebutting the opposition's points and also support my team's points. First one is I'm going to rebut the points from the first opposition leader. That she said actions speak louder than words, and I would like to highlight that social media is a tool for introverts and they make introverts socially more active. Does it mean that introverts need to change their personality from introverts to extroverts? Because introverts can still socialize in a face-to-face way, but still can be comfortable in their own thoughts. They can meet people with their own same personalities in common. They can have something in common, and that they should not have to change themselves. They should not have to become extroverts in social media, because that is called faking. Why should you fake some social skills because just to make some friends? And the second one is the point of helps communities to fit in. Why do communities need to fit in? Okay.
As you already mentioned earlier, that introverts have to some kind of change themselves. But your second minister already mentioned that regarding the social skills for real life interactions, and both of your points are contradicting.
No, let me explain. Because her point is not about social interaction. She just uses herself as an introvert to avoid proper social interaction through the social media platform. For example, just reading the message through notification without responding. That's what she's saying. They can be introverts through social media. But if you want to build social skills, they still need to have face-to-face interaction to be able to engage actively. Does that answer your question? It's okay. So next one is debate number 2. These emotions can still be passively interacted at what you said just now. So this is socially less active, not passive. Active means actively engaging, giving emotions, involving emotions. So as a simple example, I'll give you how people use. You see today, people just use WhatsApp, use Instagram. They just reply the message they like, but you can see their reactions on their faces. They don't have the emotions. They don't really like the photo. They just tap and go on. They tap and go on. There's no emotion. There's no feelings. That's what makes social media becomes more cause people to become more passive and depressive. And right now, there's another argument you gave is social media connects people. Because they do connect people, but does it connect people in a good way? Just like my second minister said about the leader, about the catfishing thing. Does it connect with simple good way or bad way? Because there is still, for example, there is still a toxic cancelling culture. Cancelling culture is also a byproduct of social media, right? So why does social media need to be used all the time, or is it why do we need to be dependent on social media? Because we can still do face-to-face interaction. Catfishing, toxic cancelling culture, it can be reduced through face-to-face interactions. This is because, and you said actively engage with real life. So what if we meet up? What if we meet up with some unfortunate predators? What if we meet up with catfish? You said that we must trust people, right? But how could we build trust if we are not actively engaging with them through social media? We need to face to face. We need to meet them first time face to face, and we need to build trust from there. We should really know how to evaluate them, because we don't have to. How do I say this? We don't have to trust people through social media, but we should trust them through face to face interactions. Wait for me. I'm going to justify about addiction. My point about addiction and social media. Social media. First about addiction. Okay. Addiction brings loneliness. Loneliness, according to a study, the relationship among loneliness, social support, internet use by Shan Yang Zhao et al. 2008. The study found that excessive internet use, including social media use, was associated with decreased social support and increased loneliness. This is why addiction in social media is really bad, because it increases loneliness. So if you are lonely, if you feel you like to be lonely, you like to be alone, how can you actually socially engage? Even through social media, you can feel lonely. It's not fulfilling the human fate. It's not socially fulfilling the human requirements, the emotional requirements, the natural requirements. Sorry. And PowerPoints. The second point is emotions. Social media makes social skills deteriorate, because deteriorating social skills happen due to social media being too excessively used, because they're going to be numb. People are going to be numb, are going to have less feeling more and more they use social media. So just like I said, tap on and go. Yes.
Your Prime Minister said that she was defined. The social media is one of a kind of communicating tools, but you relate it with the loneliness. But I'm sorry. With the loneliness, how you want to justify that? Because social media, this what that have been defined by your Prime Minister, it's a communicating tool. It means people engage in the social media. There's two interaction there. You comment, and when they reply the comment, it's two-way.
So basically, social media is a tool of communicating. But why would you communicate? Why would you communicate digitally? Because this is about making socially less active. They're not being passive. You can still communicate passively, right?
Yes.
So that is the answer for your POI. And all I would like to talk about is this motion should be supported, because social media really makes people socially less active, and they're going to be numb to day-to-day situations. And that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you. So now I welcome the first speaker of the opposition, Syed.
Thank you, Mrs. Johnson, for the chance given to me. Good morning to our intellectual judges, members of the floor, and the government side. Before I start my rebuttal phase, I wanted to remind you guys of what have been said by the Prime Minister regarding the definition of social media and interaction and less active. The Prime Minister mentioned that social here refers to human interaction, and he also mentioned that less active here is lack of motivation to join in any interaction. Meanwhile, in the mechanism of their arguments are based on face-to-face interaction. Thus, I'll rebut the first point from the Prime Minister, where she mentioned that social media can affect an intellectual level of a person. She said that it leads to addiction, Facebook and IG can be more addictive, and it causes people to be overly concerned to log in. Meanwhile, I wanted to ask the Prime Minister, is there any further explanation on what kind of interaction that you are seeking for? Because logging into the social media allow interaction to occur, because we will interact with people. If you say it's passively, it is still considered an interaction. And interaction here leads to socially active, as mentioned in the definition of their mechanism. Moving on to the next one. How social media stops them from interacting, meanwhile we provided proof on real-life interaction that has occurred through social media. My second minister and my first minister had mentioned on how social media can be a tool to enhance real-life interaction afterwards by joining competition, by taking part in gatherings and meetups. It shows how live interaction also occurs through the existence of social media. Thus, I believe that social media helps in making people socially more active and not making them less active, even if it is considered as a passive interaction. According to Bose 2008, communication through different social networks is not considered as one personal communication system rather than as separate social worlds. This communication offline and online both have a substantial amount of impact on one's online and offline social interaction. Thus here I mentioned that social media here works as a tool, not as something that stops real-life interaction to occur, because we provided the proof on how real-life interaction still occurs through with the help of social media. Moving on, government side failed to show on how addiction can lead to people being socially less active. Members of the floor, we have to understand that someone logging into social media is the first time to allow interaction to occur because they want to interact, because they want to see what's the updates of people's lives. It shows they are interacting. If it is considered as passive interacting, how about going out and watching people living their life? Is that considered as an active interaction? Are we talking to people? Are we talking to strangers? We are not. But through social media, we can command and we can show our interaction even to strangers. Thus, we believe that social media is making people more active, not less active. Moving on to the second point, it leads to social skill literate, and it makes people to be antisocial. The more engaged through social media, the more people become less interactive. And they give proof on missing out on conversations, and they mention that interaction here, socially active here, refers to tourist interaction. Members of the floor, I wanted to ask, isn't there any features that allow lives to occur? Isn't there any feature to allow video calls to occur? Video calls and live feature are considered as a feature in social media. Nowadays, we people use lives to interact with people at the same time, in the real time, which allows two-way interaction to occur. If two-way communication occur here, does it mean that we are being socially active? I asked the second minister from the government side. Moving on to the third point, it decreases self-esteem because social comparison will occur. We only show good side through social media and we will hide the bad side of us. I wanted to ask here that there is no proof on how bad comparison occurs through social media because the research mentioned by the second minister are only focusing more on how social media makes people feeling lonely, feeling depressive by looking at other people's lives. I wanted to ask the members of the floor, our judge and also the government side, by looking into real life scenario, by looking at the life that people are living in their real life, doesn't that make us being comparative also? Does only social media allows us to be comparative? Meanwhile, the real life also can make us being comparative. Thus, it shows that social media here is not a medium for us to make comparison to other people's lives, but it is a medium for us to share the lives that they are living in and maybe to make improvement into our lives. And that is a research mentioned on how social media does not make loneliness or does not cause depression to people, because as we mentioned in my first minister point, she mentioned on how introverts use social media to interact, because introverts are not able to communicate in real life and they use social media as a medium to communicate to others, to interact to others. That is why we say that personality here is something that is very affected by the usage of social media. We are not saying that we have to change the personality. We are not saying that social media can help to change the personality based on the third speaker. We are not saying that. We are saying that social media is helping these unfortunate people who doesn't have the ability to communicate offline to communicate online. We are saying that social media is a tool for them to engage with people more actively. Thus, I believe that the arguments brought by the government side are not strong and baseless and misguided. I will take all of you to see the summary of what has been brought by the opposition side, which is the first speakers talk about how social media really helps in changing someone's behavior and personality through constant engagement. We even provide examples on how social media can really help in changing introverts' perceptions towards the outside world, despite allowing them to be engaged with other people, even if it includes only one or two new interactions. You have to remember that we are talking about the introvert's perceptions, not the introvert's personality. Not to forget that the argument mentioned is supported by a clear-cut fact about a YouTuber who is actually an introvert, but he succeeds in making new engagement through his videos, which allow him to be socially active. Engagement here doesn't only refer to the people who interact, but also to the people who post, people who share. They also need interaction by looking at the numbers of viewers, likers, and also the number of interactions they got. Our second speaker then presented two more arguments, which are the ability of social media in connecting people through competitions and sharing about their common interests. And the final argument will be on the ability of social media to facilitate real-life interactions. She had presented her arguments clearly by providing solid proofs on the type of gatherings that occur involving people from various places and backgrounds, such as the K-pop fan meeting and also sports competition. Thus, I strongly believe that we have presented to everyone in today's hall on how social media can make people socially more active, and this leads to opposing today's motion. With that, I raise my case. Thank you.
Thank you to the speaker for that speech. And now we are going to give a 1 minute break for our speakers to prepare for their reply speech. So I would like to remind everyone in this room that the reply speech should be 4 minutes long and it is entirely protected from blue eyes. So the opening will be marked with a single class as well as the closing. It's time to turn back to the teams for their final speeches, starting with the opposition. Please welcome the opposition's speaker.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, so now during my reply speech, I will emphasizing back why the motion today should be opposed. As what we have heard from the government side, they stated that social media become an addiction and distraction that make people socially less active. But they fail to state the and solid facts why addiction make people socially less active and less effective. Meanwhile, our third minister and also me as the leader of the opposition has clearly stated and also provided facts and proof how social media content such as video and images make people more socially active and contribute into the society because it can convey their emotion. Next, the Deputy Prime Minister of the government side said that people become less communicative and be more passive. The government side still not open their eyes and realize that communication still occur in the social media. You still communicate in the online communities through chat and calls, also video calls. The government side have to remember that social media is a platform that provided by the technology to communicate regardless of the distance. And also, the government itself failed to realize how interaction occurs through the social media. They forget that engagement occurs not just in a direct way, but also indirectly. If you just scrolling down and watch the videos, contribute to the increasement of the viewer, it can be considered as indirect interaction that prove people more active in the social media. They watch, they see, and they view. If you comment and another person replied back, it's two-way communication. It seems like the government itself misunderstood the definition of two-way communication. So, I did not realize that the social media make people more confident, not decreasing their self-esteem. As they improve themselves, become better and better if they're comparing themselves. So there's no rationale that social media decreasing self-esteem because it gives them idea to improve their self. Hence, the government team failed to realize that because they just see the negative side of social media to propose their motion. They also fail to show us how real life interaction failed to occur. Thus, why we in this side of opposition should win today? Me, myself, as the leader of the opposition, have already provided a proof how social media can change a a personality of someone in a good way, which from an introvert person that afraid to gather with the society into a someone who's successful to engage with the society and get out from his comfort zone by the confidence that was gained from the crowd, such as Steve Sutton as a successful YouTuber and vlogger. Next, my second speaker comes with two arguments which how social media connects people through events advertised online. She also presented a second point in which social media makes people actively engage in social gatherings. The fan meeting itself actively involved the interaction that government forget to discover that the social media has been a platform where the people gain the information. When they receive the information, they decided to meet and attend the fan meeting. That's where the interaction happens that make people socially more active, not just in the online community but also in the real society. Thus, I emphasize back, if this sharing leads to gathering, it shows the live interaction. If the government said that this is what defines socially active because social media helps interaction occurs between the people. If the government said that social active means you socially involved with the society, hence I believe we in the opposition side provide enough proof why today's motion should be opposed, which through the social media people become more socially active, just like I've stated just now. Thank you.
Thank you for the summary. So now I welcome the speaker from the proposition to sum up their theme and the debate. Please, the floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Now it is time to wrap our debate and introduce some main clashes that went on during this debate. The opposition team has tried to explain why social media is not making people socially less active, but they only provided their points with foundation on evidence. They also mentioned about meeting online people can be dangerous. Since the two speakers said we need a company to meet them, there are also murder cases occurred due to meeting people online since they can fake their identity. Their arguments are also filled with assumptions and hasty points that do not support their claim. The one example they provided was about how it affects introvert to be extrovert in real life. There is no strong evidence and it is made up with assumption because there is no statistic and data. In contrast, this house provided a strong evidence on why social media is making people socially less active and is killing our real human connection. As our first argument stated about the issue of addiction, studies have shown that excessive social media use can lead to addiction, causing individuals to spend hours on the platforms each day. This excessive use of social media can lead to decreased physical activity as individuals spend more time sitting and less time engaging in physical activity. The sedentary lifestyle associated with social media use has been linked to numerous health issues, including obesity, heart disease, and diabetes. Furthermore, social media use can negatively impact an individual's social skills and ability to form meaningful relationships in real life. Spending excessive amounts of time on social media can lead to decreased face-to-face communication and reduce opportunities to form and maintain meaningful relationships. This can have a negative impact on an individual's mental health as well as their physical health, as social connections have been linked to improve physical and mental well-being. Finally, social media can have a damaging effect on an individual's self-esteem as they compare their lives to the carefully curated and often idealized versions of others' lives on the platforms. This can lead to feelings of inadequacy, low self-esteem, and decreased motivation to participate in physical activity and lead a healthy lifestyle. Therefore, due to our superiority in our support of our arguments, the government time stands and will take this debate home. Thank you.
Thank you to all speakers